that game. We gave it away by doing that. We gave them the friggin' game. In my opinion, that sucked. What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Hey, what is up, everybody? This is GEFA Chalk Talk Playoffs Round 1, or as, I think they would call it the divisional round in the league. I'm your host, Jake Stout, in case you haven't noticed. I am co-hostless tonight, unfortunately. Arthur had some family things come up, so I will be without his services this evening. I don't know, might make a phone call halfway through, get a couple of picks, but honestly, I'm not even going to recap last week. Why? Because everybody knows who won, everybody knows who's in, everybody knows why who's playing who, the brackets are set. What I want to talk about is not only the matchups, the likelihood of an upset, A, and B, what... a little philosophy, I guess we'll call it. So, round 1, Tomahawks Comanche. Not allowed to pick that game. Mountain Lions Vikings. I put an asterisk beside this one. I will explain why in a minute or two. But I did pick the Vikings. And this is my pick for upset of the week. D-backs versus Cyclones. Cyclones by miles. And Warriors Shock. I picked the Shock. They get the redemption. Here's why I want to go back and touch on the Vikings Mountain Lions game for a minute. And I'm saying this with the utmost respect and the utmost, I guess just respect, I guess would be the way to say it. As many people know, a high school head coach that coached a lot of the Du Bois guys, they just had recently just passed away. I think that, and I believe his name was Coach Ivanko. Great coach. Everything from what I've read, and everybody has nothing but good things to say about him. What I think makes this game interesting is you're playing for somebody now. I do have written down the score of the regular season game between the Vikings and the Mountain Lions, but I think that now it's different. And I say that because when you give a team external motivation, when you give a team that's internally motivated more external motivation, I think that makes them dangerous. Because watching that film, it almost, I want to equate it to boxing a little bit. It looked like, to me, the Vikings let their hands go. Like, the Vikings were throwing punches, they didn't care. It also looked like the Mountain Lions were almost scared to let their hands go a little bit. It's almost like, because you could tell, in that game when you watch the film, Jake Terry was more than willing to throw the ball down the field. Great. But he wasn't throwing the ball down the field where he probably should have. You know what I mean? So it's not about just throwing wild, to equate it back to boxing. It's not like just throwing wild punches is going to get you a win. No, you have to be precise, pick your shots, make the right decision, and commit to it. That's why, I'm going to grade everything on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not likely for an upset, 5 being an upset. I think the Mountain Lions are the highest. I give them a 3. Just because... obviously they're in a little bit of a rebuilding stage. They had an offensive overhaul. We don't know what, Du Bois' team is going to travel. So, I think that it's important to remember at the end of all of this that, the Mountain Lions are not the same team of old, but I think it's also important to remember that that's not essentially a bad thing. I think that Du Bois has talent. I think that Du Bois has the potential for an upset if they can play absolutely lockdown defense and make good decisions. But yeah, so that's my. If I'm picking a potential upset, that's what I'm picking. D-backs versus Cyclones. On the upset meter, that's a -5. Cyclones are resting their starters by the third quarter, in my opinion. I have friends over on the D-backs. They have talent. They're young. They're not ready. And I hate to say it, but it is what it is. Warriors shock. This is what I wanted to, when I mentioned earlier, like a philosophy that I think I don't want to say a lot of people, but I know a lot of football experts kind of do submit to this thinking. It's really hard to beat a team twice, whether it's regular season or playoffs. It's really hard to beat a team twice because now all that other team is thinking about is beating you. You know what I mean? Nothing else matters. Everything else is just a business decision. And given the Warriors' injuries, Rich Adams no longer being there, and you know what I mean, just like I said, the Warriors just being uber banged up. I don't know, man. Like, the Shock it depends on what Shock team shows up. If a Shock team shows up, that played us, for example, the Comanche, that team has a really good chance to lose that game. If the Shock team that played them the first time shows up, there's a really good chance they could lose that game. So I think it's important to understand that, at this point, anything could potentially happen. And, so running down the list of, the original scores of the matchups, the Warriors did beat the Shock 58-54 in the regular season. The Cyclones beat the D-backs 55-6 in the regular season. The Vikings beat the Mountain Lions 46-12 in the regular season. And the Comanche beat the Tomahawks 59-27. So my thing is that I think, like I said, I think it's really hard to beat a team twice. Am I saying that we're going to lose to the Tomahawks because we beat them the first time? Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. I think, depending on what Tomahawks team shows up, because now they got to come to our house, anything's possible. Shock. Here's my thing with the Shock. Back to them for a moment. With a situation where, the other team is vulnerable. Excuse me. The other team is vulnerable, and, you're just getting healthy. The wheels are starting to roll. Hold on, give me just a second. But yeah, so if like I said, if you're in a situation where, you're just starting to roll, you're just starting to get healthy, and you're just starting to put all the pieces together, I think it's important to get the jump early and just keep that foot on the throat the entire time. And like I said, again, the reason I say all of that is just because the Shock, it's hit or miss. It's week to week. It's, they show up with the all-star team that we all believe that they have, or at least that a lot of people submit to the thought that the Shock are a really good team, and I too submit to that thought. So, sometimes they show up and play the good team that they're supposed to play. Other weeks, it's dude, what are you doing? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. It's crazy to just think about, because the Warriors, even though they're banged up, what does this mean for the Warriors if they win? Obviously it's a rematch with the Cyclones. Cool. What does it mean for, how do I want to say this? What does, the gravity of this potential win bring? You know what I mean? I'm looking at it from the sense of, okay, off season's just around the corner. Does that mean that Shock guys are going to recognize, oh, the Warriors are now on the come up, they have good pieces, why not go over there? You know what I mean? Like, could the power dynamic shift? And I almost equate it, because the Warriors and the Shock are so close, I almost equate it to, like, Du Bois and the Jags. Like, if the Jags would ever get good, would Du Bois players defect at some point? You know, so I look at it, like I said, it's weird just because, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think so much is contingent on what Shock team shows up. Like, I don't think. Alright, well, just got a confirmation that a phone call's coming. So, alright, well. Anyway, yeah. I think that at the end of the day, depending on the Shock team that shows up, I'm picking the Shock, and I'm picking it. It's going to be, I'm going to say 2 or 3 scores just because the teams know each other really well. They've watched a lot of film. I think that defense is still really good, regardless of the coaching fiasco that happened over there, which actually, that news broke last week while Arthur and I were recording, so that was kind of a shock and an unfortunate circumstance, you know, but I still think that game this week will be the closest of all of them, just because of, like, going back to their original score in the regular season. It was definitely a lot closer than all the other scores. I don't know, man. Like, I kind of want to just poke the bear a little bit and talk about the Tomahawks, but I really don't at the same time. I mean, here's what I will say. Yes, it is, like I said earlier, and reverted back to, like I said, a previous conversation. It is hard to beat a team twice in one season. The Tomahawks are just now getting healthy. I understand Timmy Beck is now back at full power. I understand, you know, they might be banged up elsewhere, but they did beat the Wildcats to get in. That proves something. You know what I mean? That proves that at a bare minimum, they have the heart. They're gonna show up, and I think that regardless of you know, the regular season, I still think it's going to be a good game. I think that, and I hate to use this as a crutch, but I think that field is going to make a difference, because you'll notice, like, if you watch the Comanche Tomahawks film from the regular season, we played at their field. Their field was a mud bowl. Our field is not. Our field is all real nice grassy. You know, the weather's supposed to be decent, so you know what I mean? Like, there's a whole plethora of external variables that could potentially make this, you know, a ball game, but at the end of the day, I still just legitimately think that, you know, Comanche beat him. We beat him in the regular season. I think we beat him again. Might it be closer? Yeah, but it also might be, you know, a bigger spread. Just because, as much as, you know, every team studies every team is also getting better and evolving every week. Every team is different. You know what I mean? We know what kind of works. We know what doesn't. I think it's very important that you know, we execute. Both teams have to execute for this to be a ball game. And like I said, I think it has the potential to be a ball game, but upset for the Tomahawks, I'm gonna say give them a 1. Like I said, D-backs are -5. Warriors Shock. I mean, if the Warriors upset the Shock, is it really an upset because they beat them in the regular season? I mean, I'd give that a 2. Like a 1.5 or a 2. And like I said, well, it's just like with Mountain Lions Vikings, I definitely think that you know, these are two teams that have played, you know, against each other a fair amount in the last few years, and they've seen each other a lot, and everybody kind of knows what everybody's bringing to the table. You know, this late in the season, it's technically week 12, but you still got to stop it. I mean, and watching that Vikings Du Bois film, I definitely think that the Mountain Lions showed, or as Simerson would say, Dubois. I definitely think the Mountain Lions, you know, show glimpses of being able to, you know, slow that offense down. But it's a case of you got to be able to stay strong in the back end. You know, they have 3 receivers that are good. You know, potentially 4 if you count Malik as just like a flex player. But yeah, I mean, every part of my being says, okay, you know what I mean, just pick the upset. But I don't want to pick the upset, if we're being completely honest. Ugh. Okay, waiting on a phone call. Oh, here we go. Here's an interesting, something we haven't done before. So, I'm going to read off the polls and the current votes. Actually, never mind.
Yo.
Hello?
What's up?
What's going on, everybody? Caleb Houston. We got Caleb Houston live on the line.
What's going on, everybody?
All right, man. So, I mean, I know everybody probably heard you talking Monday night on the podcast or Tuesday night. Well, yeah, you guys record Tuesday night now, right?
Yeah, we go on Tuesday nights. It's the best time for Coach T to be on because of his work schedule.
I got you. Anyway, I was just talking about likelihood of upsets in the playoff bracket. If you had to pick one team that was going to make an upset, who are you picking? Why?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know. I'd have to say the Tomahawks over you guys, and that's not shade, but I've been saying all year the Tomahawks can score some points, and they can do it in bunches. And showed it all year. I think this one really comes down to how you guys come in focused, how focused you are for the game. And I know that Monk's gonna have you guys ready, and you're not gonna let that happen. But I think it all depends on how focused you guys are.
Fair enough. I mean, not gonna lie, a little bit salty now, but okay, fair enough. So quick question, just to preface this a little bit. Do you submit to the thinking or the philosophy that it's harder to beat a team twice? Like it's harder to beat a team the second time?
I absolutely believe it's harder to beat a team the second time around. After one game, you can say, "Oh, we got you here, we got you there." And then, of course, if that team's smart, they watch the film and they can see what they did wrong and how they can counteract that. A team that won, I think, has to come in and they got to come up with another plan of attack or another way to defend something. There's really pressures on the team that already won, if you ask me. I think because really they got more to lose than the visiting team or whoever's coming in that lost the last game.
Okay, because I have written here all of the regular season scores of every game in the playoffs, and the only game that is close is the Warriors shot game. That was the 58-54 thriller for the trophy that James has. And like looking at it, go ahead.
I think, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, looking at all the other games, like, Du Bois and the Vikings, like that regular season score was 46-12, but if you take away a couple of mistakes, by Du Bois, that score is a lot closer. You look at the Comanche, Tomahawk score, we beat them 59-27 in the regular season. Like, couple of falls of the ball either way, like, that's a ball game, you know what I mean? I definitely think that there's potential, but for me, honestly, I think Du Bois, if they're willing to just let that offense run and just send it and just throw absolutely everything into Vikings, I think they have a shot to make it a ball game.
I mean, they definitely do, but it really depends on how well that run game gets going. If they don't get running the ball very well early on and they totally abandon it and go right to the pass, that falls right into what the Vikings want them to do. Jake Terry's been really good at points this season, and other times he leaves you scratching your head. You just don't know what he's looking at sometimes. That whole offense is predicated on how well they can run the football. And if they can't run very well, I can't see how they can keep it a game with the Vikings. Because the Vikings I think they're gonna be able to do whatever they want on offense, run it, pass it, trick plays. They're gonna do what they want to do, and it's up to Du Bois' offense to do what they need to do just to keep it a ball game.
I can give you that. I mean, I definitely think, I wouldn't even really call if the Warriors do beat the Shock, I wouldn't even really call that an upset. I would say, I mean, it is a little bit, given how banged up the Warriors are, but I definitely do think the Shock are the favorite.
Yeah, Shock, in my eyes, are still the favorite. They were the favorite last time, and they're the favorite this time. If you look at the Shock, they were missing some pieces the first time around. I think they came into that game a little too confident. We still didn't know what the Warriors were then. They were undefeated at the time. They just came off they beat us in a close game. So they were confident, and really nobody knew what they were about yet. Now, after that Shock game, they kind of caught everyone's attention. I know they got Simon's attention and everyone else, but he's not letting this game go by lightly. I think they're going to come out ready to go.
Yeah, I definitely think that the injury bug hit them at the wrong time, the Warriors, that is. And I definitely also think that, like we said, like, beating a team a second time, like, the pressure's on the Warriors. Like, now you have to show up. Like, there's no, show up and get blown out by 40, then you go right back to nobody taking you serious, in my opinion.
Well, this is a home game for them, just like it was last time. I mean, everything falls into place for them to be able to win this game. But like you said, the injury bug hit them a little bit. They've had some turmoil in the last couple weeks that they're dealing with internally, which they did a good job of last week, focusing on just the game and coming away with a win. But this is all really on the Warriors to prove that the first time wasn't a fluke. They're 8-2. They're having their best season so far that they've had. Second seed in the playoffs. But to still come into a home playoff game as an underdog in the eyes of everybody else, I mean, there's a lot for them to prove.
I'll give you that. So historical GEFA question for you.
Shoot.
If the D-backs upset the Cyclones, where does that rank in all-time upsets?
It's got to be at least number 1A. I mean, I don't see it happening. I don't think it's going to come close to happening. But
if the Diamondbacks
were somehow to win this game tomorrow, I'd retire right on the spot. You wouldn't see me anymore. Nothing makes sense. nothing makes sense anymore. I mean, hats off to the Diamondbacks. They won last week, did what they had to do, got to the playoffs, first-year team, 5-5. All the respect in the world for that. There's a whole new animal down there in Lancaster County that they're taking on. I just don't see any way that they take the Diamondbacks lightly. I don't see how they don't have mercy rule by halftime. This is just going to be a good old-fashioned ass whooping. And if for some reason the Diamondbacks were to win this game and shock everybody, I'm done. I'm out. You won't see me anymore.
Okay, I'll give that one to you. All right, so since we're on the topic of that game, the regular season score was 55-6. Do you see more or less by both teams, or what's your score pick for that?
I forget what I said exactly on podcast on Tuesday night. I think I said like 80-24, something like that. I know the talk on the real page has been spicy. Some guys have been going at it. I think that Cyclones are going to remember that, and they're going to at least hang 80. I don't see how they don't hang at least 80.
So, I mean, I almost want to call this another Phantoms massacre from, what was it, a year ago or 2 years ago in the first round of the playoffs in the Valley. Because what was that game? It was like 83-6.
It's shaping up to be like that. Oh, it was bad. I don't know what the score was, but I know Cyclones hung at least 80.
Yeah. But no, the Vikings Mountain Lions intrigues me a little bit. I think the Mountain Lions do have to throw some monkey wrenches early at the Vikings to make it a ball game. But, Warriors Shock, Tomahawk Comanche, all intriguing matchups just because, like we said, it's harder to beat a team, the second time now that everybody kind of knows what everybody's got. So, I mean, and I will give it to the Tomahawks, though. They're getting healthy. Timmy Beck's finally back, you know what I mean? Everything's starting to click a little bit more. It's definitely going to be an interesting ball game.
Yeah, it should be a good one. I wish I could make it. I'm too busy to go to any games tomorrow.
No, I was about to say, are you hitching a ride with somebody to
to
come over?
What's that?
I said, are you going to try to hitch a ride with somebody to come over? Because I noticed a couple of Maniacs players were talking about coming.
Oh no, if I wasn't busy tomorrow, I definitely would. But
okay, I got
stuff
you.
I got to do since since no playoffs. I got some free time for around the house, so I got
There you
to
go.
do something.
There you go. All right, brother. We got any final comments for anybody?
No, just good luck to all the playoff teams. Stay healthy, play hard. Don't get in fights. Don't get ejected. Don't make the league look bad. All that good stuff.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah,
it seems like you have to say that every week.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, football is nothing more than controlled chaos in a 50-yard by 35-yard wide field. So, or however wide our fields are.
Mm-hmm.
But
I believe it's 50 by 30.
50 by 30. All right, that works for me. Well, everybody, I'm done. I agree with Caleb. Stay safe, stay healthy. Drive safe, all that good stuff. Don't get pulled over. And we're out.